All right, so this is video 8, and it's a continuation of more stuff on the Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem of the United States of America, and there will be lots of explanation. Again, I'm showing you a previously recorded video for reasons I won't go into right now, and there will be some dates and some assignments given that don't make any sense to you guys because it was from last semester, so you can ignore all that. This is just our standard video 8. You need to find the keywords in there and write them all down and then send them to me. And they need to be to me by about Sunday of this weekend. And then we're all caught up. Starting next week, we just go back to our normal schedule. And you can start submitting stuff through Canvas. But ignore everything else in this. And I apologize that it won't make sense when I talk about assignments and dates. But there's definitely a good reason why I had to do it that way. Let me get myself diminished even more. There we go. And now, please watch and enjoy. That out. So we're still now continuing with the second half of the national anthem. We have all the notes. I just wanted to now show you some examples. And keyword number 2 is Bluetooth. So let's go to YouTube and see what we've got. So this is the first recording where someone changed our national anthem. Our traditional national anthem should be sung the same way every single time. And I don't mean exactly the same, but the form and the melody and the meter and the rhythm shouldn't change. Every other country that does it, they do it the same way every time, and everyone knows it and everyone sings along. Basically, last week I took most of the time to explain to you how difficult our anthem is to sing. Not only the melody, but the words, none of it really makes sense. But if someone's singing it their own way for the first time you're hearing it, it's impossible to sing along to something you've never heard before. And that's not that any of the performers today who do that are bad people or doing anything wrong. It's just that they don't really understand what the purpose of the anthem is. The anthem's to unite, not to separate. And the first guy to ever change it, and he didn't have any malice in his heart, was a Puerto Rican singer-songwriter named Jose Feliciano. You may not know him from the name, but you certainly know his most famous song, which is one of the all-time great Christmas songs, and you'll probably hear it 1,000 times this holiday season. But he's the one who wrote and sang Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Prospero año y felicidad, I wanna, etc., etc., etc. So this is a World Series game in 1968. I was alive then, and my father and I were actually watching the game. And he, along with a good portion of America, did not appreciate what Jose did. I mean, it's not blasphemy or anything like that. The audience at the end barely claps. I mean, you hear a little bit, and I actually can hear some boos. People were really upset about this. But it started the trend of people then changing the national anthem, which again makes it very difficult to sing. So here it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. Please rise and join in the singing of our national anthem, which will be played by Merle Elby's band and will be sung by Jose Feliciano.
Just another comment. When the announcer said we'll be accompanied by Merle Elby's band, you'll see that he's not accompanied at all, because I think the band got to the rehearsal before the World Series game and realized, well, they don't know the version he's singing. You'll sort of hear the national anthem in there, but he changed it enough that it would have been impossible to sing along. The band just kind of stands behind Jose and, just standing there professionally and politely. At one point, you'll see a guy adjust the microphone, and Jose's wearing sunglasses. I forgot to mention he was either born blind or had an accident in his youth, but he's definitely blind, and just a great musician, an incredible guy.
Oh, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last week, whose broad stripes
There really was a national outcry. We didn't have social media, of course, back in the 60s, but the way that people could kind of publicly complain to the masses was through the newspaper. Every newspaper published in America had a page called the op-ed page. That stands for opinions and editorials. The editor of the paper would always write an opinion piece almost every day, I think every day. But people could write in letters to the editor, it would have been called. And the typical thing would be some old person who's saying, they've got to fix these potholes in this town here. Why don't they ever put any money into the roads or something like that? But millions of people wrote into their papers the next day and just complaining about this. And again, in 2020, your ears are not going to hear that that was the most offensive thing. And it's not really offensive. It's beautiful and it's very musical and very appropriate musically. It's just not an anthem if people don't know the song already. But I'm just going to show you some other ones. Some of these are just really bad performances, and some are some pretty incredible performances. I'm going to show you, I guess it's a funny one. What we would call an epic fail. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. So my best guess, let me get it going first. I'm going to pause it right away. My best guess is that this is a young girl, 17, 18 years old, and she had probably auditioned or won a contest or something like that to sing the national anthem at a hockey game in Canada. And that's where she's from. She's Canadian. But they were playing a team from the United States. And I guess no one had ever told her that when two different countries are represented, you have to play both anthems. So I can just imagine at the beginning or 10 minutes before the game was supposed to start, the public relations guy for the hockey team is backstage or in the tunnel underneath, by the locker rooms and saying, okay, so first you'll sing the United States, the Star Spangled Banner. And I'm sure she just had this look on her face like, I'll do what? And they said, well, I'm sure you've got to sing the other country, the visiting team's national anthem also, and she didn't. And the only problem with someone young and inexperienced is they need to know when to say no. And I think she was probably a little pressured, a little scared to actually refuse to do it. She should have refused. But I think they played a recording for her. I think they should have given her the words, but they expected her to all of a sudden remember the words in about 10 minutes of practicing. And it definitely did not go well. This is a commercial for a Slinky. Oh, no, for computers. Okay. The Magic Keyboard. Pretty cool. Keyword number 3 is Apple. She apologizes, and the crowd was not very forgiving. They actually laughed at her. And she just leaves. I mean, she's just so embarrassed and probably humiliated. The crowd, again, wasn't nice because they not only laughed, but they booed her as she left the ice. There's a break here. There's an edit. So I assume she went back under the tunnel and the guy caught her and said, no, honey, it's okay. You'll be fine. Let's go over it again. You've got to go out there. You can do this. And he kept talking her into it. And that really probably wasn't the most appropriate thing. But watch carefully. They put this really cool piece of carpet here on the ice, so she doesn't have skates on. So when she's out there on her shoes, she's not going to slip. So let's see what happens if she returns. I think they were signaling to the booth that maybe they needed to play a recording. The poor girl, she never came back and did it again. That just pretty much wiped her out. Then this is what is considered to be probably the greatest rendition of the national anthem. This one's actually incorrect, but it's only slightly incorrect. Let me go back to the screen. I want to make this big to show you this part. The national anthem, and some of you know music and you'll understand, some of you don't, and that's okay. But the national anthem has 3 beats in every measure. And I might have done this last week. I apologize if I'm repeating. But essentially, it goes like this. Oh, say, can you 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, and 3, 1, 2, 3, and then the most famous, most copies ever sold, the most beloved rendition was sung by possibly the greatest voice ever on the planet, Whitney Houston, in 1991 in a place very close to here. I'm in Riverview, Florida, actually just outside Brandon, and that's all outside of Tampa. And Whitney Houston sang in Tampa at the 1991 Super Bowl, and that was in the old Tampa Stadium. So you won't recognize it if you know Raymond James Stadium. You won't recognize it. And this stadium was located where the north parking lot of Ray J is now. And so it was the first year of the war on terrorism. And it was like Desert Shield, Desert Storm times, they called it. And they really wanted to do something spectacular to get the audience, involved in a patriotic sort of a God Bless America way. So they reached out to the greatest singer around, and that was Whitney Houston. She was alive and well at the time. And they also wanted to do something big with her. So they decided to see if Tampa had a symphony orchestra. And of course it does. It's the Florida Orchestra. And it's a major symphony. It's one of the top 25 in the country. I would encourage you to, if they ever get back to being allowed to play because of this quarantine, COVID, and all that stuff, if they ever do play live concerts again, I would encourage you to try to attend. But someone you know very well was a trumpet player, member of that orchestra at the time, and that was me. So someone you know was on the field with Whitney Houston. You won't see me, but you'll hear me. There were 3 of us there, and the entire thing is pre-recorded, I will tell you that. So watch carefully. She's lip-syncing, and we're lip-sync playing. I don't know the word for that. Fake playing. And when you say that, we're actually playing, but you're not hearing what we're playing. We're making real sounds on the field, but that's just so it looks more authentic. And she's really singing, but her microphone's not connected to anything. It's all for show. And they do that for a couple of reasons. To make sure it goes well, but also if it's an outdoor stadium, they often have a flyover. And sometimes that flyover is in what they call the missing man formation, where one of the planes is missing as if the pilot had gone down, and that's just done kind of a memorial honoring sort of a way. But the flyover has to be, timed perfectly at the end of the national anthem. So if you have a recording, they can tell the pilots exactly when to step on it and get over the stadium. So the orchestra recorded our portion roughly late October. Now, mind you, the Super Bowl is the last week in January back then. Now it's the first week in February, all things being equal. And we recorded in October and then sent the tape. It would have been videotape or audio tape in those days, not anything digital that you could just email. And then she recorded it in Los Angeles I understand, in early November. So it's been, as they say, in the can for almost 3 months. So the change she made is she just added an extra beat to every measure, but it was the same melody. It just elongated the first word in every measure. And after you heard a couple measures go by, the first 3 seconds of the song, you could pretty well figure out. And everyone's singing. And they say, 500 million to 1 billion people might be watching any given Super Bowl. So this was a pretty big deal. So let's watch Whitney Houston. National Anthem with the Florida Orchestra, containing Someone You Know. And at the very beginning, I think there's the drums start, and then you hear the trumpets do something like dun da da dum. That was just so she knew it was about to start. and she would know when to start opening her mouth. Now, she's a great lip syncer. I better get me off your camera, darn it. Good thing I remembered that. I'd have gotten some wicked emails. She's a great lip syncer. She's really singing the song full out. But, again, the voice you're hearing was from months earlier. I think this is the one I like.
We are being censored. America's new.
Cool. So just to explain again the way she did it, instead of, oh, say, can you, she did, oh, say, can you, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Very subtle difference, and some of you that haven't been in music class at all may not totally understand it, but it was still very identifiable. Sold millions and millions of copies. I think she got all of the money. The orchestra tried to get paid for some of it, but I believe that her management team never did actually pay them. And then I wanted to also show you that Jose Feliciano is the one that started, they call it now stylizing the national anthem. But America is a great country, and even it's certainly got its problems, especially today. But it's a country of second, third, fourth chances, a country of forgiveness. Eventually, Jose did it again, I think maybe 2015, 2012, somewhere around there. Let's see. I don't think it was a World Series. It would have been a baseball game. That's 2018. Looks like 2012. It was a playoff series. It wasn't a World Series. Maybe I can't find it here. Let me struggle. This looks like, yeah. So it was actually 8 years ago now. I was actually on my very birthday, October 14th. So what's really neat is they actually introduce him as the first person to have stylized the national anthem. So at the first time he did it, it was kind of bad. The audience was not happy. This time they're celebrating him for having stylized and starting the trend of everyone changing the national anthem. He's much older now, and he doesn't play guitar nearly as well, but it's the exact same version, and it's kind of neat to hear. The other neat thing I think about this is it's the PA announcer for this stadium, I think it's San Francisco, is a female, and she was the first female stadium announcer for Major League Baseball. I thought that was kind of cool.
Performing the national anthem for us today, please welcome the man who first stylized the national anthem, 9-time Grammy Award winner, Jose Feliciano.
And you can also see the difference between fidelity of video in 1968 versus 2012. This is high def and very, very clear. And that was black and white and very, very blurry.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight and the home of the brave?
I don't even think he bothered to tune the guitar. So let's just do a couple more. Let me show you one that I think is probably a perfect version. It's actually a friend of mine, but a very famous person. I haven't mentioned him before to this class. His name's Patrick Wilson, and he grew up here in the Tampa Bay area. His father was, I see a different version. Let me try that. His father was John, or still is John Wilson, who's one of my closest friends. John Wilson was the anchor at Fox, local Fox affiliate, Fox News, for 20, 25 years. So first time I met Patrick, he was about 6 years old. Now you'll recognize him. A lot of you will have seen him in movies. First movie I think I saw him in was Phantom of the Opera. He's also in an older one called Lakeview Terrace. But most recently, he's been the father in The Conjuring, parts 1, 2, and 3. He was the evil brother in Aquaman. And I normally play this one, but let's see if I've not seen this one before. He was in the movie Midway, so at the premiere of the movie, he sang the national anthem. And he sings it generally perfectly.
The RoomToGo.com Veterans Day coupon sale is on. Style your home for less with bonus savings coupons.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That's the way it's supposed to sound. Let me also tell you that I've always taught the national anthem, and I've always cared about it a lot, and I care about our country a lot. But I grew especially passionate about it. 2015 maybe was the year. It was the Boston Marathon bombing, which maybe some of you remember. It was at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Now, my son eventually lived in Boston for 3 years, but he wasn't living there then. I would have been absolutely horrified. Turns out he lived about a block away from where this bombing had happened originally. And there's a memorial there whenever I used to visit him there. He's now in New York City. When I visited him there, we would go always check out the memorial on our walks. But after the bombing, the city closed down because there were two brothers who were the terrorists involved. And they saw them on video, so they knew right away who they were, but they didn't capture them right away. So they were still out there, and nobody knew what their intentions were. So that was a Monday afternoon. It was actually April 15th, tax day. That's how I remember the date. And the city closed down. I mean, on lockdown. Talk about this COVID lockdown. It was like the end of the world type of lockdown. And Tuesday, same thing. People were still scared, and the mayor said, don't leave your homes, lock your doors, put your windows down and close your shutters and blinds and stay home. And about, I think Wednesday it was, the mayor came, so it was 2013, the mayor came out and said, we can't live like this. That was Wednesday. They caught the guys Thursday night, Friday morning. Let's get back to living. So he authorized, the Red Sox or the Boston Bruins or whoever was going to be playing in town to go ahead and play your games. So the crowd was pro-American that night, and it was all Boston strong. You'll see all the signs. It was absolutely amazing. And this is the version that just really inspires me to this day. I will get goosebumps watching it even now. This man is Rene Rancourt, and he's a retired opera singer from the Boston Opera, and he sings it traditionally at all the Bruins games at what they call the Boston Garden. Now it's the TD Waterhouse Garden or just TD Garden. And he normally just sings it like an old person typically would. But he hears, like in the first 3 seconds, every one of the 35,000 there are singing it along. This is the way it's meant to be. This is how it should be sung every single time. And to me, this is chilling.
Hey, baby.
Boy, I really want to get this iPad Air thing with that keyboard. That is cool.
There is some emotion here that is just waiting to burst out.
Yeah, that's true. There's a real long pregame show, so I'm gonna skip over that.
We know during days like this that prayer is often meant.
Some familiar road. And although this way.
Keyword number 5 is hairbrush. By the way, that's Philip Phillips. I think I might have played him earlier for you. Anthem. That's an anthem about going home. Boy, that's really something. Ever since I saw that, when I conduct a concert where we start with the national anthem, sometimes we do, different groups do, and some other groups don't. I don't have the orchestra play anymore. I have the orchestra play the introduction, but then the orchestra stands and they sing along with the crowd. And typical audience would be 2,000 people in a sellout in the typical auditorium for orchestras. And to hear 2,000 people singing it a cappella without instrumental accompaniment, it's just super powerful. Okay, so here's the last one. I know it's been a lot. I told you that I would beat this horse dead a couple times. This is now a tragic one. Tragically funny, tragically bad. It was at the NBA All-Star Game about 2 years ago. Fergie, originally with the Black Eyed Peas. I don't know what got in her head. It's one of the most strange renditions, not one you could sing along with. And then she just adds so many extra notes that make no sense whatsoever. Some of you have already seen this. By the way, you can put in YouTube National Anthem fails, and you can keep yourself busy for about 12 hours doing a bunch of laughing at some really sorry things. You might want to put your seatbelt on for this one. It's going to be a... Eventually, the players can't help themselves. You'll see Steph Curry and some others actually just laughing.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly wailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming in the rocket's red glare. The bombs burst.
For most of the song, she's just accompanied by an electric bass and a snare drum using brushes, metal brushes rather than drumsticks. Then a horn or two comes in here. But here we go. It's going to get crazy.
Gave through the night that our flag was still there.
Here it comes. But before I show you that, keyword number 6 is music. Here we go.
Say, does that star-spangled banner yet
Oh my goodness
Searching for-
gracious me alive, that was something. All right, so then there's just one more video, not really of the national anthem, but I told you that if you visit Fort McHenry in Baltimore, you pay to go on the tour, but before you go on the tour, you have an orientation video in the main building there, and I found it online, so let's take a watch, and you'll actually see what ramparts are. I'll be able to show you the ramparts, and it's a pretty good acted out representation of the battle that night and what Francis Scott Key went through. I think I can find it. This might be it here. I think that's it.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Powerful words from our national anthem. They speak to our American identity and are woven into our national flag. Words written by one man, Francis Scott Key, about one flag and one moment, September 14th, 1814, here at Fort McHenry. In 1812, the storm clouds of war had gathered over a young United States as the nation pitted itself once more against the might of the British Empire. For 2 years, the conflict wore on, from the British colonies of Canada to America's southern coast and out across the high seas. To draw off U.S. forces from Canada and damage America's economy and morale, the British Navy attacked and blockaded the nation's east coast heartland. Up and down the Chesapeake Bay they raided, destroying towns and farms and spreading fear. August 1814, disaster. The invading British seized Washington, D.C. and burned the nation's capital. A citizen soldier of Baltimore spoke for many. Every American heart was bursting with shame and indignation at the catastrophe. And Baltimore hearts were also full of anxiety, for they feared they would be next. Francis Scott Key embarked on a diplomatic mission to free a prisoner of war, sailing right into the heart of the approaching British fleet. But with their attack on Baltimore imminent, the British detained Key amidst their massing warships. On the outskirts of Baltimore, citizens, men and women, militia and regular troops desperately prepared defenses. They dug almost a mile of earth entrenching and waited with bated breath. On September 12th, British soldiers landed at North Point, where a bloody battle with Maryland militia failed to halt their march towards Baltimore. However, the British could not tackle the city's earthwork defenses and troop reinforcements without their Navy's help. The next day, the British bomber ships would open up their main assault with a ferocious bombardment. Their target, Fort McHenry. They had to knock out the fort to bring their ships in range of the city. The fate of Baltimore now lay in the hands of the fort's defenders. citizen soldier, like pigeons tied by their legs to be shot at. The American artillery answered the British with desperate return fire. But will it be enough? Baltimore citizens watched in panic through the night. One recalled, "The attack on Fort McHenry was distinctly seen from Federal Hill and from the tops of houses which were covered with men, women, and children."
Keyword number 7 is Amazon.
Early next morning, September 14th, the British guns finally fell silent. A huge flag was raised above the fort, but whose? Through the long night, Francis Scott Key had been forced to watch the bombardment from among the enemy fleet. Not a wall? Nothing. Now, he strained to see the flag in the dawn's early light. It's ours, Mr. Skinner. Say, we won. It's ours. Inspired by their courage, King wrote down a few lines. "'Tis the Star-Spangled Banner, oh long may it wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave." As the British withdrew, Key returned to Baltimore, where his words soon found music and a publisher, and the Star-Spangled Banner was born. It captured a defiant, patriotic spirit and spread rapidly across the nation, pouring new life into the national flag as a symbol of American identity. The popularity of the song and the flag grew during the years that followed. The Star-Spangled Banner eventually became the official anthem of the United States in 1931. Inspired by the brave defense of Fort McHenry, Francis Scott Key's words and the flag they so memorably portray are now woven into our sense of national identity. These words still resonate as loudly today as the glaring rockets and bursting bombs of 1814.
And we've heard it before, so we'll stop there. So anyway, that's the story of the national anthem and Francis Scott Key and the Star-Spangled Banner and all of my concerns about the way we sing it. So different every time. Don't know that we can do anything about it, but it's just something that's always on my mind. So for right now, we will wrap this up as the end of part 1. And you can follow me then once we start part 2. See you.